Hello, what's up everyone? Welcome to this new live stream. We are yet again talking about a new AI tool. So I wasn't planning to do most of my live streams since the end of summer about AI tools, but there are so many that are getting released and that have the potential of being quite impactful for an iOS engineer that I feel it's kind of like the topic of the moment, so let's go and cover it. So we've already talked about Cursor AI, we've talked about the Xcode extension for Copilot, and today we're talking about what might be the most known AI tool of all of them, ChatGPT, which didn't get exactly an Xcode integration, but rather a macOS integration, which happens to work with Xcode. So let's have a look at how it looks like. One thing to keep in mind if you are watching the replay, this is being recorded end of November 2024. There is a good chance that maybe the UI will have changed a bit, or even the access to the feature, because right now to have access at the Xcode and macOS integration, you need to be a paying user of ChatGPT, so you need to subscribe to ChatGPT Plus. But from what I understand, in a matter of weeks, the feature should become available to all users, including free users. So please keep that in mind if you're watching the replay. I see a message in the chat. I tried to use ChatGPT to work with Tabletop Kit for Vision OS. It was terrible, crippled by the cut of date of its training data. That's a good point. That has always been, I think, the weak part of ChatGPT for iOS is that if you ask it about modern APIs, it will not know about them, and it might not know about features which have become or are becoming more and more mainstream simply because they have been announced after its cutoff date. So that's a very good point that you're sharing. I would hope that this is improving over time. I don't know what is the current cutoff date of ChatGPT, but maybe we can ask it actually. So what I did before this live stream is that I downloaded the macOS app for ChatGPT, and you can see that here we're going to be able to ask it to work with Xcode. But first, let's just ask it. So what's your cutoff date? Not data, date. October 2023. Okay, so it's 1 year ago, a bit more than 1 year ago. So for instance, it wouldn't know about Swift testing. I guess we'll try to ask it about Swift testing. And yeah, you're saying it is pretty fantastic for more typical tedious coding stuff, though, pumps out boilerplate code insanely fast. That's why I want to try it for kind of like refactoring boilerplate. Yeah, as you said, like the typical and tedious stuff. So we'll give it a try. So how do you use ChatGPT with Xcode? You click on this button. So it's a feature work with apps, and you're going to make it work with Xcode. And from there, in Xcode, you will simply select the code that you want to ask ChatGPT about. And then when you do Alt or Option space, which is the shortcut to open ChatGPT, you can see that it will automatically include the content of your text selection in the prompt. So it's like a way to streamline copy and pasting code from Xcode to ChatGPT. So for instance, if I say, okay, explain what this code does, I made a typo, it still understood it. So what does it do? So the selected code snippet defines the movie servicing protocol in Swift, which is part of a modularized architecture to interact with a movie data service. Here's an explanation of its role and context. So the protocol defines a contract for any type that conforms to it. Specifically, any conforming type must implement the getMovies function. Yes, correct. Very basic, but correct. And then the function signature, so purpose. The function is meant to fetch movie data asynchronously. That is correct. Parameter, a single parameter, completion. It is a closure, a function of the parameter. The closure takes a result as input, which can either contain a movie response object on success or contain an error on failure. Correct. At escaping So since fetching movie data might involve an asynchronous operation, for example, a network call, the completion closure is marked as at escaping, meaning the closure can outlive the function scope. Very correct. And usage, this protocol is implemented by classes like movie service and movies mock service in the larger code base. So interesting. It seems that here it says focused on line 2426, but maybe it actually sent the entire file with, because it seems that it knows about like the rest of my code. You see here movies service and movies mock service, but they happen to be in the same file. So maybe it actually sent the full content of the file and just with a focus on the lines which I had selected. By defining a protocol, okay. So this is completely correct. It's very, very long of an explanation, but it's definitely correct. I see a question, can you ask ChatGPT in French? So funny enough, but my ChatGPT app was in French just before the live stream because my MacBook Pro is in French, and then to put it into English, I had to change the language of the system to English and restart the system. So I won't be able to try and switch it to French. I think so ChatGPT can work in French, and I see a French viewer that says it speaks French, but it doesn't work as well. So that might be one of the topic I've been seeing, is that because it was trained in English, basically when you try to use it in French, there is some kind of like translation happening, which introduces potential for like, well, something getting lost in translation. So that's kind of like what I understood, that there isn't another ChatGPT model which was trained in French. I might be wrong on that, and to be honest, I have never tried to use it in French. I think the main reason is because I work in English, fully in English at work. Using ChatGPT in French is asking me, like, it's more effort for me to write in French than write in English, just because I write much more in English on a day-to-day basis than I write in French. So it's yeah, I've never tried it in French actually. So and no problem. Please don't hesitate if you have any question and ask them, because that's the purpose of a live stream like this interaction. So one thing I wanted to do, and the reason why I chose this Xcode project, so you might remember it if you've been following me for some time, because it's a project which I used on the live stream that happened more than 2 years ago. You can see the date here. So it's this app which I've been showing quite often in different languages and using different frameworks, which displays upcoming movies. What's nice is that every time I run the app, because it fetches upcoming movies, the data is up to date. So for instance, here it shows Moana 2, which is, and Gladiator 2, which are movies that are indeed in theater right now. So I'm going to use this app, which I implemented 2 years ago, because there are many things that can be improved or refactored in this code base, and so it will be perfect for ChatGPT to give it a try. And then we're going to try a few other things, for instance, around Swift testing, around writing code for your boilerplate. And of course, if you have any idea of things that you would like me to try, please let me know in the chat. I think I'm going to do this live stream for something like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, because I think it will be like more than enough to try the different features of ChatGPT, and for any viewer to make up their mind on whether or not they think that the tool can help them on a daily basis. I see a question. So are you required to have the macOS ChatGPT application, or can you use it with the web version? If you want to have the integration with Xcode, my understanding is that you do need to use the macOS version, because then it's going to integrate with the accessibility layer, which is what allows it to automatically copy the content of what you are working on. But this means that you can also use ChatGPT with like Safari, I guess, with TextEdit, with Pages, with many apps in macOS. Might change, although that might change in the future. So if you're watching the replay, maybe now there is like an Xcode integration, there is something better, but as of when I am recording, this is the only way to have like this seamless integration, this seamless first party, so made by OpenAI, use of no, it's the only way to have a first party, so made by OpenAI, seamless integration between Xcode and ChatGPT. Actually, when I say seamless, it's more seamless on how you get code from Xcode to ChatGPT, because when you want to get code from ChatGPT to Xcode, you still need to copy and paste manually. It's not like Cursor, where Cursor would also change the content of the file for you, or rather show you a diff and ask you whether or not you want to accept it. So one thing I want to do, why do I have a bookmark? I think because maybe I used this project when I did also my live stream about like features of Xcode. Okay, so you see this code here. I'm going to split everything. Yeah, I'm going to format everything. All right. So you see this code, it uses the @escaping completion handler, which, as we know, is not great. We want to use async await now. So how about I select all of this code and I say refactor it to use async await instead of a completion handler. So I'm doing Alt space. We can see that ChatGPT opened, and I'm gonna say refactor this code to use async await rather than a completion handler. Let's see what it does. So here's the refactored code, and hopefully I could click on copy, go back to Xcode, paste, and it updates the code like that. It's not finished. What's funny is that you can see that I did this live stream back when the upcoming movies were Jurassic World Dominion, the outfit. So yeah, definitely the movies of May 2022. Yeah. All right. And then here we have usage, but we don't care about that. So I'm gonna click on copy, go back to Xcode. So I'm doing Tab Shift to go back to Xcode. And now I'm going to do Command V to paste. Now it pasted here. So okay, I'm just going to close ChatGPT and then paste. So I've pasted the new code. So let's see, of course I'm going to have to update other parts of my code, but here, so async throws, try await. That seems pretty correct. So of course now here the code isn't good. So I'm gonna select, you know what, I'm gonna try and select only this method, because if I were to refactor like a real large class, I would want to be able to scope the amount of code I will change, just so that if something changes, first it minimizes the risk of something changing when it shouldn't, but also it's easier for me to manage like more like cognitive load. So let's try it. I'm gonna do Alt space. So refactor this call site to also use async await. It still has the context from the previous chat message, so I guess it should work. Okay, so it went faster. What are these buttons? So here it's open in main window, and here it's... What does this one do? Okay, new chat. I was looking to see if there was a button like to automatically like copy and paste, but no. Okay, and so let's paste. Build failed. Oh, and now here we have the fact that in view did load. So you know what? We're going to try something. I'm going to copy the error. I'm going to select this line. So actually, do I need to select it? Yeah, I guess I need to select it. So let's see. I get this error. I'm gonna say something like that. Let's see if just with that, I'm trying to keep the prompt to a minimum to try and see like how seamless it can go. So it explains. So option 1, use a task in view did load. Okay. Or mark view did load as async. yeah, that's not a good solution because unfortunately in UIKit, in UI View Controller, it cannot be async. So yeah, changes the app lifecycle. Yeah, and I mean, more realistically, using this approach requires changing UIKit, and I don't think it's something that an iOS developer can do. So it does recommend option 1, so that's good. That's good. Yeah, this second option is indeed good in the sense that it could be possible if you had control over what's in UI View Controller, but that's not the case. So here I copy. So I still need to select the full code of view did load and then paste. Okay. Yeah, the app is still working. So it performed its job quite well. I see a message in the chat. How large can the input be? What about converting Objective-C to Swift? So I would say for the input, I guess it depends on which model you use. For instance, here I'm using GPT-4 O, but I guess the context window might depend, the size of the context window might depend on the model. So I would say it probably depends on the model. So that might change on the model here. And converting Objective-C to Swift, I think it could do it, honestly. I did, like, I'm looking in my projects. No, I don't have my old Objective-C project, but honestly, converting Objective-C to Swift, I think it could be quite good at doing it. To be honest, you can give it a try, but I think it would be quite good. So you're saying this must be better than Command G or Copilot for Xcode. Could you tell me what Command G is? Because I'm not sure what it is actually. But for Copilot, I would say it's a different, even though they are both AI tools, it's a different workflow because Copilot, it's about like, it's auto-completion on steroid, I would say. So it's more when you know in the direction in which you want to go and you want to have as much help as you're going there, but you're still in a coding workflow. ChatGPT, it's a bit more different. It's more asking an agent to do things for you. So even though ChatGPT Copilot now offers the ability to chat with your code in VS Code, but I do see them in complementary use cases for now. So honestly, I could see myself using both the Copilot integration into Xcode and ChatGPT for when I want to do something that requires maybe a few more steps or that is easier to do by writing down a prompt rather than relying on the auto-completion, the smart, the context-aware, call it however you want, auto-completion of ChatGPT. But that's my personal take, and other people might have other use cases. I would say, in the end, my answer will always be do what's best for you and for your workflow, because at the end of the day, the goal of any AI tool should be to improve your productivity. So whatever contributes to that goal, I would say is fine and desirable. But yeah, that's what I would say. Like the two tools, like Copilot and ChatGPT, I see them more as complementary for now. Granted, that might not be the case for long because ChatGPT might get integrated into IDEs and behave more like Copilot, or Copilot might take on more features of ChatGPT of being able to handle prompts. So the future will tell. But as of today, I do see them more as complementary than using one version rather than the other than using only one of the two. I think it's better to use the two and use the one that makes the more sense in each situation. And so you say ChatGPT says we are limited to about 1,000 lines as an input. Good to know. Of course, that might improve, and I guess it will only that number will only grow bigger as time goes by. One thing I wanted to do also is that you see here, one reason why I chose this project is because it's implemented in Objective-C. Objective-C. I'm tired. UIKit. UIKit. Why is it implemented in UIKit? It's because it was like what I use for a live stream of how to improve the architecture of a legacy iOS app. And there are way more legacy iOS apps written in UIKit than in SwiftUI. Even though SwiftUI is starting to be 5 years old now, so it's getting to the point where legacy code, you can start talking about legacy SwiftUI code. But what's great is that because this app uses UIKit, we're going to be able to use ChatGPT to try and refactor it to use SwiftUI instead. So let's see. I'm going to try and select this entire file, and I'm going to be like, write an equivalent of this view controller using SwiftUI. And I'm curious because you can see that there is an IB outlet, but it's just for a table view. Everything else is in the code. So it's not a case where you need to have access to the storyboard to understand what's happening. So it did generate an equivalent one called movies view. So I'm going to copy it and put it into a file. So let's create. So here, I'm gonna select all of this. I'm gonna do new group and I will do UIKit. And so I'm going to create a new group called Swift UI. Of course, don't you don't want to architecture your project like that, but it will be easier for this example. So new file from template, Swift file. So how do I call it? I call it movies view, like that. And I'm gonna paste the content of the code. So you can see, for instance, it uses state object here and not the more modern observable observability approach. So of course I will need to, I guess, update my movies view model. So here, is there an ID on my is there an ID on my movie? I'm looking at my model. No, it was in movies service. Yeah, there is an ID still, but maybe it's because of the error above. Yeah, okay. And then we have movie row. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I guess first I need to update movies view model. So I'm gonna here, you know what? Keeping still to the minimum effort, like make this conform to observable object. I'm curious about what it will do because, as you can see, I had created this variable type, which was a very basic way of having a closure that's called whenever you set a new value, but variable is a custom type. Where is my code? It's here. You can see like custom type, on update closure value, and when you set the value, it calls on update. So I'm curious to see what it's gonna do. So I need to go back to my movies view model, and I want to make sure that it's going to take into account, yes, line 10 to 28. All right, let's see what it's gonna do. So you need to mark the class protocol and replace variable with @published. All right, that seems pretty correct. So once again, I'm not reading because I want to emulate the workflow of someone that is using ChatGPT to really like speed up their work. So let's see. We still have build failed, and here, so yeah, now there is no longer the value, so I can remove that. Okay. And then here, the unupdate no longer makes sense. So yeah, I guess I will need to get rid of this code. So you know what? I'm gonna, let's see what happens if I comment the code, if I comment out this code. And just here now, yeah, so I need to comment this out also. And now here for start, so I'm no longer going to start like this. You know what? I'm gonna say actually, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT like refactor to use the new movies view when starting the app. I'm not saying wrap it into a UI hosting controller or anything. I just give the minimum amount of direction. So view model, UI hosting, yeah. So let's see what it did. Okay. You need to import SwiftUI, of course. Build succeed. Honestly, if it's going to run correctly, yeah, it's running correctly. So of course the view isn't great because, for instance, it's no longer showing or maybe actually no, I don't think it was showing the picture of the movie in this view. It was showing it here, but I don't think it was showing it before. I'm getting confused. So yeah, there is just like an empty space here, so there is a small problem here. But besides that, it did quite a good job, to be honest. So here you see, here I'm impressed by how fluid this was, because I gave it the minimum amount of instruction in the prompt, and it managed to give a result that is useful and that speeds up your work. Honestly, for the last change, maybe Copilot for changing the start method could have done it quite easily, but changing like the code of the view model to make it conform to observable object, it would have still required like several edits in the code, because you need to change things in several places. So here, being able to do it in one go with ChatGPT, and we saw that it generated the code like quite fast. So I'm quite impressed. What's funny is that it was definitely faster to run this than it would have been to wait for the built-in predictive code completion of Xcode to suggest something. So I'm sad to say it, but every time I use an AI tool, it feels like the one thing they have in common is that they all outperform the built-in AI tool of Xcode in its current state. So quite happy with what I've seen. Let's try and ask ChatGPT to add the movie poster. So we're going to do it here in movie row. So I'm gonna ask ChatGPT add display the poster of the movie. I'm gonna say also display the poster of the movie. Let's see if we can pick up on that. It's gonna use async image introduced in iOS 15. Nice to see that it warns about like availability. Okay. Let's see the new one. First, let's see if it works before we try to understand it more. It builds. We have the image. That's impressive. Honestly, this is really, really, really impressive. Let's see now the quality of the code. So it's using, I closed the simulator by mistake. It's using async image, which is good. So here, interestingly, it's using this. So you would want to encapsulate this better, of course. And what's interesting is that I also have like a poster URL, actually. I have a poster URL here that already exists. So I think it generated that, but there is something better you could do here. Just movie.poster URL, and that should also do the trick. So that does show that you want to take a second look at the code. Also, like when it adds comments like this, arguably you probably want to delete them because they don't bring that much value once that you've understood like the code. And so yeah, I even saw a loader appear. That's pretty cool. I saw this movie, The Count of Monte Cristo, very good French movie, very inspired by the Batmans of Christopher Nolan. Very funny to see like how like the modern Batman movies influenced what is like a very old French book. But that was a good movie. And funnily enough, I watched it Monday evening, which was when I was supposed to do the live stream, but then I was a bit sick. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna chill and watch a movie instead of doing the live stream. So funny to see it appear here. And I guess they see it's upcoming because maybe it was just released in the US. That might be why, because in France it was released like in June, and it just got released on Blu-ray. That's why I saw it at home. Okay, so then it's switching on the phase of the loading of the async image. So when it's empty, progress view, perfect. So I guess maybe there is a way to say like, don't give out these comments. That would be better, because it's not great to always have them. And it's like, okay, so empty, success. There is a case for failure with a default value, which is kind of nice. And here, at unknown default, I'm not sure that you need it, actually. What happens if I don't put it? Yeah, you don't need it because oh no, wait. You need to cover it because the enum, I guess, is not frozen. Let's see. Yeah, the enum is not frozen, so they say that they might reserve the right to add more phases in the future, which is a good thing from like a framework evolution point of view. And so ChatGPT picked up on that correctly because, and yeah, here I want to have just the empty view. Okay. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh yeah, I guess for the French viewers in the chat, when I say the Count of Monte Cristo, of course, it rings a bit more of a bell than if you are an American or like a viewer from another part of the world. Like it was our big French movie of the year, and you don't see like that many French movies that play like the 3 hour, quite a big budget card. So that was nice. That was nice to see, just as seeing that like French cinema can still do some nice stuff. And then here, so display movie details. All right, so pretty nice. And then put an H tag. Okay, so yeah, for spitting out boilerplate code, definitely useful. Now I wanna see how about, I don't know, I'm looking at the time. It's been only half an hour, so we've covered quite a lot of ground in half an hour. I'm pretty happy about that. This way, people watching the review will get lots of value in a short amount of time. I think watching the replay. Maybe I said watching the review. Starting to be, I'm a bit tired. I think I'm starting to feel it, and it's starting to show. What else can we do? So I want to show like trying to use Swift testing. Definitely. What other case could ChatGPT help us with? We try to implement to convert from UIKit to SwiftUI. We try, you know what? Let's try and use the more modern observable approach. It's gonna be interesting because I'm not that familiar with it. So like I will be already in a situation of a developer that this time uses ChatGPT not to streamline something that they already know, but rather to gain knowledge on something new. So let's see. So I'm going to start maybe by doing the view model. So I'm gonna select it, and I'm gonna be refactor to use the iOS. I don't remember which version of iOS was observability, but I will need to upgrade it here. So here it's 15.4. I'm looking at where, I am not sure where this is, where it's set. I think it's here. It's here, it's in general, I think. And yeah, I guess it's here. Okay, yeah. Just because I was used to having the same field for like debug and release. So I have 15.4. Or could it be, I thought there was a warning about like updates. I'm going to update. I was thinking maybe it could be linked to like not having updated. No, it's not that. But okay, so iOS, I'm just gonna look on Safari. iOS, SwiftUI, observable. I think it's iOS 17. Yeah, it was iOS 17. Okay, so I'm gonna need to update here to 17.0 and 17.0. All right. Let's make sure that the app still builds and run, just in case I have broken something. Still builds and run. Okay. I don't know why there is this empty space at the top, by the way. Let me try and understand why. I could use ChatGPT for that, of course. You know what? I'm gonna try and do that. So I'm gonna go again into the simulator. I'm gonna take a screenshot. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. That's a good thing to ask it. So let's see. Okay, so here I have the app. So I'm taking this. I'm gonna put it on my desktop, and now I'm gonna go into ChatGPT. I'm gonna add this. Explain why there's an empty gap at the top of the view. I'm curious if it's going to be able to also use like info from the code base. Okay, so safe area in sets. Okay. Since main coordinator, so it does understand the file in which I am. It seems that it's getting past the file that's currently opened. So since main coordinator uses a navigation controller, it adds padding for navigation bar at the top, even though you are likely using a UI hosting controller with SwiftUI views. If you haven't explicitly accounted for this, SwiftUI may leave extra space. Fix. Ensure your movies view adjust for this layout. You can remove navigation bar. Okay. And if it contains a scroll view, does it contain a scroll view? I think it contains a list, not a scroll view. So here they say that it's maybe the navigation. So let's see. Because here we have navigation and then we push the hosting controller. And this one has a root view here. And you know what? I'm going to try also to capture the view hierarchy. Just to see like which view is occupying the space. Yes, so here we have. So the hosting controller does take the full. Oh, it's like, look, we have one hosting controller and then another one right here. And here is the gap. So we have one hosting controller and another hosting controller here. So what could be happening? Let's try to look. So here, oh yes, because here there is another navigation view here. Okay, so that's why. That's definitely why. Because it put this navigation view here, but I guess I shouldn't have it. So if I remove it, okay, much better. And I really like what happened. One thing that's great is that you can see that I didn't notice it, but it still added the on-tap gesture to the coordinator. And so we are going seamlessly from the SwiftUI view to the detail view, which is in UIKit. And we didn't, thanks to the coordinator, like it was very seamless. So that goes to show like the interest of the coordinator pattern, like the value it adds to the project first. And second, what happened here, it does show a bit of the danger of also like, not danger, but things that you need to be aware of is that, as you can see, I didn't notice that there was this extra navigation view. Even though it was there, I just try to move like fast and seamlessly and everything like that. And I didn't notice it, even though when you look at the code which I removed, so I'm going to uncomment it just so that we can have like a color syntaxing, syntax coloring rather. And you can see that, yeah, there is no like, there is no navigation. If I search for navigation, there is zero use of even like accessing the navigation controller, which makes sense because we have the coordinator which is there to wrap that. So the use of a navigation view, it was kind of like added by ChatGPT, even though it wasn't there in the original code. So I guess maybe if you want to use the view as a standalone, it makes sense. But when you take into account the architecture of the project, it didn't make sense. So that goes to show how you need to be careful with what ChatGPT generates, because it's very, very easy to let a mistake slip by. And you can see that even though I was trying to like evaluate what ChatGPT was doing, I still let this mistake slip me by. So that goes to show like when you want to use this tool, it's great, but it's so easy to just like you want to it's like self-driving cars. Like you need to keep your hands on the wheel, otherwise bad things might happen. And it's kind of the same analogy. As soon as you start to trust it a bit too much, you might get into trouble. So still a bit of a double-edged sword. I do see the benefits, and I definitely think it's worth exploring these tools. But it's also so easy to let the tool like take control and make mistake that you will still be accountable for. So you want to be careful. Let's go back to the topic of taking this view model and asking ChatGPT to convert it to use observability, to use the new iOS, the new SwiftUI observability. The hard part is writing observability correctly. Yeah, no, it's not that, because it put at main actor, but there are still the at published, for instance, and trying to find. Yeah, so yeah, the cutoff date. So when was it? What did we see? We saw that it was, it was October 2023. So technically it was announced before, because it was announced at WWDC in May, June 2023. But yeah, there was basically almost no example for it to train on. Okay, so you say you've tried, it doesn't work, even if you link it to the documentation. Okay, so that's a bit disappointing. That's a bit disappointing, to be honest. Once again, we do see like one limitation of the tool, and I guess it's like it's great until it isn't great, and it breaks the machine a bit. I remember like talking about that at work earlier this week, and saying that like these AI tools, it feels like if someone gives you like a super fast car and you need to go like to another city, and the car goes super fast and super safely like for the first half of the trip, and that's amazing, and then it brakes and goes at normal speed for the second part of the trip, you're gonna be frustrated because everything will feel like slow and boring, even though you've still gotten like a net benefit because you did the first part of the trip much faster. So there is this feeling of like when the magic breaks, it becomes like a bit like frustrating because of that. Yeah, I definitely need to do a live stream about the new observable stuff, but that reminded me of that. So good thing in the end. But yeah, so I guess if I ask it, you know what, I'm gonna ask it to write a test using Swift testing. Yeah, exactly. When the magic breaks, it can be more frustrating than if you never had it to begin with. Typical example is when there is a power cut at home. Like when electricity works at home, you're never like, oh my god, electricity is amazing, I want to learn more about it, it's so great, because it's so like mundane. But the moment it breaks and there is no more electricity, you get so pissed off, even though like you've had it like for most of the time, and it was amazing when you had it. But it's like you're I don't know how you say it in English. I'm gonna search. I'm gonna search for it because there is a wording for it in French, and it's I guess it would be like getting higher standards, or maybe like standard creep, I guess. But it's like the more things get better, the more you get accustomed to them. Like my typical example is when you buy a new, bigger TV. The first days, it's amazing. It's such a big TV, and it's so much better than before. And then you get used to it, and it's just your TV, and you're no longer amazed by it, and because it's gotten part of like what you've come to expect. So I guess it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, it's kind of like if you were to buy an amazing 4K TV, but sometimes during the movie it goes back to like 480p like resolution. That would be the same kind of feeling. And yeah, that's why we still have jobs. Great analogy, thank you. I work a bit on like selling AI capabilities at work, so I think that's one of the reasons why I've been thinking a lot about how to phrase it. And don't worry, the live stream will be saved. There will be a replay available with the exact same link than the live stream. As soon as the live stream ends, the replay will be available. That's the great feature of doing live streams on YouTube. Okay, so let's try to ask it to write a test using Swift testing just to see what it's gonna do. So I want to find a method that is testable, and I think I had put here. Yes, here it should be testable. Actually, the view model should be testable because you can inject the service. Okay, so I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna say write test for movies view model using Swift, using the framework, trying to give it hints, Swift testing. We'll see what it's gonna do. I don't have a lot of hopes. So there is a mock service, but I already have it. And so, yeah, it does import XCTest. So it didn't understand at all. I mean, here, at least, you see, it seems that it generated correct XCTest code, which is better than when I tried to ask Copilot to generate Swift testing, where it hallucinated like stuff that didn't exist. It would use the assert function, but the one that crashes in production, rather than the pound assert. So it's better, at least, than that. But yeah, it doesn't know about Swift testing. So let's see. We're going to try and put this code here. Okay, so I'm gonna try the feature where you just paste the code in the explorator. It worked. It even gave it, you see, the correct name. I love this feature. Cannot find mock movies service. Why? Because I think I called it I called it movies mock service, and it didn't have access to this code. ChatGPT didn't have access to this code when it generated. So actually, yeah, there is no need to set it up with data. Oh, okay, because here, yeah, it did the full stuff. So no, I don't need that actually. And then it's gonna be same thing here. Movies mock. Yeah, there is no shoot through error. Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna just keep the code as it was, and it also generated this mock here. So you know what? I'm gonna put it in my testing target also. No, it isn't meant to do that. I wanted to do that. Yes. Let's close that. Okay, I see a few messages in the chat. I'm trying to read everything, see if there is stuff that I need to react to. Interesting. We started to rewrite of our app. I'm using ChatGPT and Claude. Works well to give you a start, but sometimes it just makes up classes or methods that do nothing. Yeah, exactly. It's great to give you a start. It's great when you need to explore a new space. Like I wanted to try an ML model, and I was able to do that using Claude, for instance, and it was like super efficient. But it still introduced like very very subtle bugs and. One thing that's tricky in machine learning is that when it generates a bug in the loss function, there is no compiler to help you find it. So it can even more easily go unnoticed and be tricky to find. So you definitely have to be able to check everything that it spits out, because the more code it spits out, the easier it is for one mistake to find its way inside. So it can be very very tricky. And yeah, ChatGPT has a ton of potential. Oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving to all the people watching from the USA. I forgot that this is Thanksgiving in the USA today. It's so confusing because I know that Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving, but in France they started to talk about Black Friday last week. So when you're a French person and no one is gonna celebrate Thanksgiving in France, it gets so confusing because you're only like bearing was Black Friday, but now Black Friday is becoming the Black Week, and they do Black Friday even before the actual Black Friday. So it gets like it gets so confusing to know when Thanksgiving is as a French person these days. And let's see. Yeah, and like you're saying that, like, yeah, the training, like I feel like being able to train much more regularly is gonna be like one of the key like evolution features of the LLMs, because 1 year is quite a lot when you're talking about something like Swift UI. We saw that it doesn't know about observability, even though it was released 1 year ago, and it's starting to be like a blocker, I guess, for developers that would like to use ChatGPT in their project which use observability. So it's like I think like these tools, yeah, it will be one of their blockers, and they will need to solve it, because it's gonna be especially if they want to be used in more like enterprise and professional setup. Having like a closer and ever closer cutoff date is going to be like a good way to solve this issue. So what is this mock? So it's a mock, yeah, it's really like the kind of mock that you can feel with whether it should throw an error, and then the data should return. So that's kind of nice. And so now it should work. So if I try to run this test, let's see. Normally they should be passing because ChatGPT wrote everything. Oh, here we have a problem. I need to also increase the minimum deployment version of the test target. All right, let's try again. Oh, okay, yeah. So this test no longer works because I've refactored the project. You know what? I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try and say, we'll see if it has some memory, like refactor to account for the recent changes to the code base. Like, we'll see if it can just fix just from memory of the conversation. If it does, it's going to be nice. Yeah, it remembers like conformance to observable object and everything like that. So that's the new method. All right, let's give it a try. So it still uses like the movies mock that it created after the fact. That's interesting. Arrange, act, assert. I didn't know this way of splitting a test into 3 parts. And let's see, it was like call count 1, 3 values, and it added also a test on one of the data. Does it build? So why is there no mock movies? Because here it is. So what's missing? Oh, because so it's here, it's mock service. Yeah, but it's like mock. Oh, because it's interesting. You can see that it kept the name that I had given it in the previous code, but it used the API of the one that it created. So it can get a bit confused sometimes, but with this change, I guess it should work, but there is no longer, the get movies call count no longer exists. I'm going to remove it for sake of simplicity, but of course you would want to ChatGPT to add it back, because the goal is to keep your test like, when you refactor, you want to keep the same test coverage. You don't want to remove tests just to, it's like removing features to fix like compilation errors. So here it didn't work. Movies count, interesting. So await, and then here we have an error. Why do we have this? So here mock movies service, and when we call fetch data, it called get movies on the service. So it injected the mocked service, okay? And why we have get movies is gonna return the response. And here we do have 3 movies. So why do we have, and we do call fetch data, and we have an await. So it's not as if we had like started a task. Could it be because of this? Yeah, this thing here, arguably, maybe it shouldn't be there, because arguably, what you would want to do, I guess, is make this at main actor, and then this way you can just get rid of this code. So there might have been like this dispatch queue business in the original code, so that's why ChatGPT kept it. Oh yeah, but then I need to also make this at main actor. And now it creates a whole lot of issues for me. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it as it was. But I'm thinking that might be the reason why, because maybe like this isn't run. Yeah, and what happens if I get rid of just this? I think I'm gonna get. Oh yeah, of course I need to get rid of that. I think I will have an error when I run the app, because it's going to say like, yeah, this is added. So I guess I could just put this method at main actor. Yeah, that solved the issue. All right. And is it going to also solve the issue in the unit test? Yeah, so it was really a question of like this dispatch queue here, it wouldn't be executed. It would schedule the work on the dispatch queue, but then it would return here, the await would finish, and it would execute this code before the code scheduled on the main dispatch queue would run, because it was a dispatch queue async and not a dispatch queue sync. Okay. And yeah, making the method at main actor seems like a reasonable trade-off. All right, so we do have our tests working. So for the boilerplate, it's kind of nice. Of course, you want to make sure that it doesn't introduce any mistake that you're not aware of. Thankfully, the compiler can help you most of the time, but as we saw, it's very easy to let mistakes slip through. I'm looking at the time, it's been 1 hour, and I think I wanted to do 1 hour and something as a live stream. So honestly, if you have any other suggestion of stuff that I could try, now is the time to let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I think I will finish here, because I think, yeah, in 1 hour, it was a nice demo of how an iOS engineer can use ChatGPT. Now, not fully seamlessly, but more seamlessly than before with Xcode. As we've seen, you want to be careful because it's a great tool. I'm not being like against the tool or anything. It's a great tool, but the level of seamlessness to use it doesn't match its level of correctness. Basically, that's how I would put it. It's so easy to use, but it's also so easy for it to make mistakes and to have them slip through. So you really, really want to be careful when you use the tool. You saw it during the live stream. There were a few things it generated that didn't make any sense, like when it added a navigation view, even though there wasn't one in the original UI kit code, or when it kept the dispatch queue main async, even though when you are in async await context, annotating the method with @main_actor is a much better practice. So it's not perfect. It can still make mistakes. So you want to be very careful about that. And this is what I'm the most like worried of. I'm not that worried about it, like not having knowledge about recent features because it's frustrating, but at least it doesn't know about them. So it's better than if it were to generate incorrect code. But when it generates incorrect code, but that still builds, and the mistake is subtle and might slip past the engineer or the person doing the code review, then that's where it gets tricky. So I would say, yeah, use it, but exercise caution. But also, it's quite exciting to see like these tools integrating more and more with Xcode. It's been 2 years since ChatGPT has been released. I think like the initial release was around this time, end of November 2022, if I recall that correctly. So yeah, it's nice to see it being integrated more and more into macOS and Xcode. As I've said, like when reviewing like Copilot in Xcode, I do see myself using it on a regular basis. And actually, Copilot is still installed on the Copilot extension is still installed on the Mac that I use to prepare my content for my videos. Same thing for this ChatGPT macOS integration. Like I'm not sure that I will keep paying for the paid subscription, to be honest, because I might not use it enough so that it makes sense to pay like $20 every month for it. But the fact that I can access ChatGPT by doing option space anywhere in macOS and it integrates quite well with Xcode, that's pretty nice. As an engineer, I'm happy to have this option. So yeah, exciting time. I really hope that Swift Assist, when Apple will release it, they said before the end of the year. So honestly, like I expect it to be released in the coming weeks, in the 2 or 3 upcoming weeks, because releasing it like before Christmas or between Christmas and New Year's Eve would be weird. So I'm still hopeful we'll be able to review it and it will be good before the end of the year. But at least we have like nice options to use AI tools inside Xcode. Like it was a bit of a letdown, the level of quality of predictive code completion, the built-in feature. But it's nice to see that since like the end of summer, there have been many nice alternatives to use AI features more and more into Xcode. It's nice to see this trend because in the end it benefits us as engineers because it's more tools to be more like effective, to reduce the amount of effort that we need to make. Even though, as we've seen, it can be a tricky and slippery slope, but it's nice to see this level of tooling coming to the iOS world, because for the past years it was a bit frustrating to see that VS Code and other IDEs had all of these nice tools and we still didn't have them in Xcode. Now it's coming and I'm very happy to see that. I need to stop about this conclusion because I feel like I've been rambling for the past 2 minutes. But thanks a lot for the people who attended the live stream live, who asked questions, who had reactions in the chat. As always, it's super nice and it makes these live streams feel super lively for me. I hope that you've enjoyed this content. I guess I say, yeah, see you another time for another video or another live stream. Have a good evening, rest of your day, or full day, depending on where you are in the world. See you next time. Bye bye.